Today, I have called you all here to discuss the officer-involved shooting that happened on yesterday's date, which was Sunday afternoon in the 11th precinct area. Normally, I would not do a media briefing on an OIS, officer-involved shooting, during this short of a time frame. But this morning at my senior management meeting, I was able to review the body-worn camera, and at my briefing yesterday at the scene, I updated you and stated that the information was fluid, preliminary, and that I had not reviewed the camera footage at that moment. I was able to review the body-worn camera footage from the shooting officer and wanted to ensure that, as promised, I would give you all an update. I will not be releasing the body-worn camera footage today because I do not want to jump in front of the Wayne County prosecutor, which is standard in an officer-involved shooting. We will be submitting a warrant request, as we always do in all of our officer-involved shootings, and the investigation will be led by the Michigan State Police Department. But I do want to update you and walk you through what transpired to give you an update. After reviewing the body-worn footage, I can tell you that yesterday afternoon, our officer was out on routine patrol in the area of Van Dyke and 8 Mile. He observed what he deemed to be a traffic violation and conducted a traffic stop. The driver of the vehicle, which was driving a black Dodge Durango, complied with the officer and pulled over her vehicle immediately. At this point, the officer exited the patrol vehicle and approached the driver's side of the Dodge Durango. The officer identified himself and gave the reason for the traffic stop. The driver strongly disagreed with the officer as to the reason. The officer asked the driver for her license, registration, proof of insurance of the vehicle. The driver requested for the officer's supervisor numerous times, including at one point, the driver called 911 while the officer was standing at the vehicle. The officer requested backup to the scene for support. Once backup arrived, the officer physically opened the driver's door in an attempt to get the driver out of the vehicle. The officers were unsuccessful in their attempt to pull the woman out of the vehicle, and she was pepper sprayed by one of the backup officers. She then closed her door and the driver drove off from the scene. The officers pursued the Durango up Van Dyke for approximately 1 minute until they boxed in her vehicle a short distance down the road at Concord and Outer Drive. At this point, the officer which fired shots, we'll call him the shooting officer, jumped out of his vehicle that was parked in front of the Dodge Durango and began ordering the woman to exit the vehicle. The driver, as it is shown in the video, tried to drive her vehicle out of the box. While the Durango was driving away from the scene and past the officer, he ordered the woman 2 more times to get out of the vehicle before he fired multiple shots into the Durango. The shooting officer then jumped back in his squad car and pursued the Durango with the backup units following behind. They pursued, ultimately ending at the Detroit Police Department facility. The driver was shot a total of 6 times. Officers rendered first aid, medics were called, they transported the woman to a local hospital. The woman was released from the hospital and subsequently taken to the Detroit Detention Center. This morning, I ordered her released from the Detroit Detention Center immediately. I want to talk about the policy violations. This incident has policy violations in multiple areas. I find them concerning. The Detroit Police Department, first of all, should not pursue, and we have a policy against vehicle pursuits for traffic. Our policy states that we will pursue individuals that have committed violent felonies only, violent crimes. DPD also has a policy against a procedure where you box in a vehicle, one vehicle in front, one vehicle behind, in an attempt to stop it from moving. I repeat, DPD we do not shoot at moving vehicles unless it is an extreme circumstance where life is at jeopardy. As an officer, we are trained to de-escalate situations. Failing to request a supervisor when one is requested falls in line with the citizen complaint. She requested a supervisor multiple times. I want you all to know that I am preparing to submit to the Board of Police Commissioners to have the shooting officer suspended without pay immediately. And again, a warrant request will be submitted to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. This is standard. The actions of the officer in violating our policy is not consistent with what should be done. The officer will be held accountable for that. An internal investigation is going to be headed up by the Homicide Task Force, which is led by the Michigan State Police Department. The driver, as I stated, has been released from the Detroit Detention Center this afternoon and will not be facing any charges from this incident. The Detroit Police Department has policies in place for a reason. We are a constitutional police department, and I definitely will hold officers accountable for policy violations. At this point, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chief, for that update. It's Andrea from the Detroit Free Press. I know that you have concerns about policy violations, but I was wondering what you would say to critics who may agree with you and say, sorry, I'm getting the questions out, sorry. Like, how would you respond to critics who question whether all of this over an invalid license essentially was worth it, was worth all of this?
I'm not going to offer my opinion or speculate at this particular time. It's an ongoing investigation based off the warrant requests being submitted. I don't want to interfere or jeopardize anything in that regard. There could be criminal charges that would result from this, could be, but I'm telling you that there definitely were procedural violations, and I'm holding the officer accountable for that.
Can you tell us more about the officer?
Yes, the officer has 1 year and 9 months on the job. No other citizen complaints and no other pending cases of discipline.
Was he an officer beforehand, or was this his first job?
That I don't know. I don't believe so.
Okay. And then what was the initial traffic stop?
The traffic stop with the officer stated speeding, tinted windows, and obscured plate.
All right, thank you.
Randy Wembley, Channel 7. Andrew kind of knocked out a bunch of them that I wanted to bring up. But you mentioned that the traffic violation initially was speeding, tinted windows rather, and improper plate. Was that merely the tag or a missing license plate, or what exactly was it with the license plate in regards to?
I haven't, the investigation is ongoing. I know what the initial reason for the traffic stop is, but I haven't looked that close to the plate. But I was, at this point, very, very quickly able to determine that policy violations occurred. And I'm taking swift action in regards to that.
This brings up just the issue in regard to pretext stops and what have you. Should there be any sort of reviewing of city ordinances, DPD policy regarding certain pretext stops? We see that in certain other cities and what have you. Is this an opportunity to review that in Detroit?
I will say that one of the number one complaints in the city of Detroit, and that I've directed officers to do, is individual speeding. And so speeding doesn't fall in the realm of a pretextual stop. We've had a lot of traffic accidents with death, critical injuries as a result of that. So the Detroit Police Department, we're going to continue to enforce traffic laws for speeding, improper plates, things that I would say wouldn't fall in the realm of a pretextual stop.
And you mentioned just the de-escalation. It seems as if this escalated rather quickly. Could you kind of speak to that a bit, and where perhaps, based upon what you saw in the video, where things could have been de-escalated, those opportunities for the off-ramp, if you will, before things led to the direction where it ultimately went?
It would be improper for me to go deep into detail at that level with the pending possible criminal investigation or charges that could result from the Wayne County prosecutor. But I will tell you that we have some of the best policies in the country, if not the best. The Detroit Police Department does. And when individuals follow the policies as they're supposed to, you don't have incidents like this. A supervisor should have been called. She requested a supervisor, and the supervisor should have been called.
And lastly, and forgive me if I missed this, but was there any moment, or was there any scene in the video where an officer was sort of hanging on the car, or what have you, or being, while she drove away, while the young lady drove away?
I can't speak to the video. If I could speak to the video, I would be able to really show the video. So that level of detail, my concern has been with what I spoke of in the policy violation.
Gotcha. Understood. Thank you.
So, Chief, let me see if I understand this. Woman was pulled over for speeding, a legitimate stop. She refuses to give a license, not supposed to do that, and she refuses to give her registration and refuses to cooperate and obey a police officer. What does the police officer do in that situation?
I'm glad that you raised that. As I reported out yesterday, I had not seen the video. I was going basically off preliminary information. And so I will tell you this, Charlie. She did give her license. She did give her registration. Her insurance was on her phone. That's all I have to say about that. If a supervisor had been called, I don't think it would have went this way.
Do you think the officer had committed a crime?
I can't and I won't comment on that. That's the job of the Wayne County prosecutor.
Thank you.
So you mentioned having preliminary information on that. I would like to follow up and ask whether, that's basically the complete opposite of what was said yesterday. How did that happen?
It was information I was given at the time, and the video had not been reviewed.
So was that
And-
given by the officer that committed the shooting?
I can't go into what he said, that piece. I can't go into that without compromising his due process.
Okay. And then will the video be in full released, or will it be edited?
After the Wayne County prosecutor does her job and is authorized for release, you'll get, the video will be available, so you should be able to FOIA.
And I do have a just quick follow-up question regarding a September 18th officer-involved shooting in which, DPD says he had pulled out a gun, produced a handgun, and then was subsequently shot, I believe, survived. That video does not show the suspect producing his handgun. Was that video edited, or is there a video showing that?
I'm not sure, I don't have the video in front of me, but the individual had a gun, and it showed the individual with his gun raising his arm, and he threw it on top of a building. The individual had a gun. He had multiple opportunities to discard the gun. He chose not to discard the gun, given multiple orders, and raised his arm, and the officer fired multiple shots, striking the individual while he had gun.
Yeah, I understand. The video right now that's released does not show that. So is that edited, or is there no video that shows that?
The video was released in our critical incident debriefing, and so if you want more video, you can definitely FOIA to get it in totality.
Thank you.
Gino Vici, CBS News. Chief, real quick, just one quick question. What can you tell us about the driver? You said she was shot 6 times. What is her condition? How did that conversation go when you ordered her to be released?
I'm the chief, so if I order her to be released, she's going to be released. And that's how it was a one-sided conversation. She was released from the hospital, and so that right there lets me know that she's in stable condition. I was actually surprised to find that she had been released from the hospital. But she had been released, and she was in our custody at our detention facility, and I ordered her released.
Thank you.
I can't comment, but I'll say this. I'll say that she can rest assured that we're doing a complete, thorough investigation, and it's being conducted by an outside entity, and that this chief of police holds individuals accountable for following our policy. So she can rest assured on that.